Palm Springs in summer. There you are. How are you? Nice to meet you. Oh my gosh, you have a beautiful smile.
Thank you.
There you are, the icon himself. Oh my gosh. I've done as much research as I can on you, and I'm so excited to talk with you about everything. Okay,
much nice and cool.
I know.
Yay.
So I thought you just grab either one of the chairs, whatever side of the,
Okay.
you
I'll sit
want.
here.
Okay, perfect. Oh, looking good. Just as good as the 70s. First take with Mickey Squires. You want to go by Mickey Squires, right?
That's fine. Yeah, that's what you're interviewing me for, so that's fine.
Well, I'm interviewing you as Richard, as Mickey, as it all.
Well, I'm more Richard than Mickey, but Mickey is in Richard, so it's all part of me, so that's fine.
I'm so thankful to have found you. You know, it is hard to find stars or adult stars from the 70s and 80s.
There are very few of us. But also a lot of whoever's remaining, a lot of them just want to stay quiet and just lead their own private life. I'm sort of being dragged into this Mickey Squires thing again, which I love, but I'm being dragged into it because people are interested in finding out what it was like back then. It's just wild that this is all happening at this age.
Just so the audience knows, we're in Palm Springs. This is where you live, right?
Yes, just down the block.
And you have another career now, right?
Yes, I've had many careers besides Mickey Squires. Right now I'm working at a senior retirement place called Living Out. It's for 55 plus seniors, active seniors, and I work the front desk. I'm the main front desk person there.
What a special and unique time to be in San Francisco. That was the 70s, right?
Yes, it was the gay sexual revolution, and I took really good part in it.
Good. Can you describe what the gay sexual liberation movement was?
Just that you could have sex with anybody you wanted. There was no curse to it, no downside to it. You went out and you could have whatever you wanted. If you could meet up with whoever you want, anywhere you want, and there were no rules and no regulations. And it was just an opening of the sexual Pandora's box. We were just, going to the baths, going to the bars, meeting, not meeting, whatever you wanted to do. You were free to do whatever you want. I went to the bars a lot. I went to the baths, but I didn't have that much sex. I really didn't compared to everybody else. They were just fucking and sucking everybody. But I sort of went just to meet friends and meet people.
I was doing research in the 70s too, and about the bathhouses and stuff, and how like singers would come, and it would just be a place for people to hang out and meet, and not sex, of course, but not necessarily just sex.
Right, not just sex. In fact, I had a really good friend, George Mahy, rest in peace. He passed on in '88 from AIDS. He and I would go to the baths, and he was more sexual than I was, and he was off wandering around. But if we heard they would have live DJs in the baths, and if we heard a great song that we hadn't heard before, we would run to find each other and talk about what a great song that was. I mean, that was our emphasis, was to hear the music and the ambiance of being in a place where you didn't have to feel guilty. I like to refer to it as a team because we all knew each other. We all went to the same haircut place together. We were called the Castro Clone, standing at the wherever the buildings allowed us to stand and get sun, take our shirts off and cruise and just, be seen and see and be seen.
In the 1970s, a new gay aesthetic took hold in San Francisco's Castro district, the Castro Clone. Tight jeans, flannel or leather, a mustache, and a gym-built body. It was bold, masculine, and profoundly visible, a way to reclaim space and identity after years of being forced to hide. For many, it felt powerful and freeing. At the same time, some of the community felt left out. Those who didn't fit the mold or who expressed themselves differently. But love it or question it, the Castro Clone defined an era and helped shape how gay men saw themselves and each other.
We all wore painter's pants or Levi's. We'd always have our shirts off. We went to the same guy who cut our hair, who, by the way, was one of the very first men to come down with AIDS in San Francisco in 79, 80. But he would cut our hair. So we all had the same kind of haircuts. It was like we were proud to all look alike because we were so proud of ourselves. We were like peacocks finally getting a chance to spread our feathers. I was proud to be a Castro Clone. It was my team. If I were to have a baseball shirt, it would say Castro Clones, and I'd be really happy about that because that was my team. We were the hottest, the sexiest, the nicest, the most intelligent men you'd ever want to meet, and we were all just being free to be ourselves and not have to worry about what people were thinking about you because they say, oh, he's a slut. Oh, yeah, he's a slut. Yay, good for him. That kind of attitude. We were out and we were open.
Let me guess, you finally make it to checkout and now you're opening 5 tabs to try to find some coupon code that never ever worked. That's exactly why I'm using Coopert and I'm never going back. This video is sponsored by Coopert. It's a free browser extension that acts like an AI-powered super shopping assistant. It is so easy to start using it. You just install it for free on Chrome or Firefox, Safari, whatever you use. You register an account. Then when you shop like usual, Coopert just kicks in at checkout. Coopert automatically tests all available coupon codes and applies the one that saves you the most money. And it's not just for 1 or 2 websites. It works on over 200,000 stores globally. Then there's a price comparison tool. Let's say you're buying something big on Amazon. Coopert might show you that it's available for cheaper on another website. And my favorite feature, cash back. Over 76,000 retailers offer cash back through Coopert. Click the link in my description to install Coopert for free and join over 8 million savvy shoppers who've already figured this out. Thank you, Coopert, for sponsoring today's video, and now back to the interview.
I worked for the San Francisco Ballet for a year, and that screwed up because I went to a party in New York City when I shouldn't have left my work. I was an assistant to the producer of the Current Theater, which is a really legitimate playhouse in San Francisco. Instead of doing work, I'd go to the Nob Hill Cinema and watch porn. You didn't want to be restricted to a job. At least I didn't. You wanted to be free.
Did your first foray into modeling and happen in San Francisco?
No, it happened in Los Angeles.
Mayor Moscone and Supervisor Harvey Milk have been shot and killed.
This is the body of Supervisor Harvey Milk as it was taken from City Hall.
I had friends from New York who were opening up the Probe dance place, a dance club for gay men. They wanted me to be a poster image, my face to be a poster image for one of their big first parties to announce the Probe is, open and they wanted people to join. And I have a very famous postcard that was sent to over 3,500 men in the mail with me from my chest up. And from there, things just leapfrogged. It was okay. I was flattered that people asked me to do videos and movies back then, 8 millimeters. And when Colt wanted me to do it, I was very flattered. But it wasn't something I really liked because it was work. But the photo sessions, I loved the photo sessions. I love getting in front of a camera.
I was reading somewhere online that you had found yourself getting into escorting as well, right?
Yes. Men started wanting to pay me to hang out with them because they saw my pictures. And so I was okay with that because as long as I felt I was okay with it, I wasn't going to let anybody say, oh, you're doing that. I go, that never bothered me. I didn't do anything in I didn't want to do, and I was very restrictive on certain things. Porn is work, and it was for me, and I didn't enjoy it that much. I liked the money. I would walk out of the session, the film session, counting my money and say, look at me, I'm that much more rich now because of what I've just done. And that's the reason I did it, not because I just was hungry for sex. Because most of the time, and this is true except for one occasion, one film, they paired me up with men I would never have sex with. And that was always a problem. I always just laughed at that because they would put me with men I would never have sex with. The first one that I had sex with is in the Colt film The Come On with a model named Jack Hacker. He was somebody I really would have had sex with. And we did. I mean, we had great sex on film. That's the hottest I've ever been on film.
I had seen something you said about the Bay Area Reporter used to write long reviews about films, which is actually fascinating in itself. But then they wrote a review about you too, right?
Yes, they wrote a review about me. I can't remember his name, John something or other, but he was a reviewer for he did all the gay reviews for stuff. And he reviewed one of my films, and he says, you can barely see my cock because I'm covering it with my hand. My cock never got hard. And he criticized me for that. He said he would like to have seen, more of me. And so I read that, and I go, well, it's true. I mean, I don't get hard very often. I mean, it's, when I'm not having a good time, even on front of the camera, it's hard to get hard. I mean, it really is. It's work. That's what I'm saying. It's work. So I sent him a picture where I did have a picture of a full-blown on. And I said, this is what it looks like. I hope you enjoy it. And then he wrote a really nice column about that and apologized and said, okay, I understand. This is, thank you for sending me that. And he published that in the Bay Area Reporter.
That was smart of you.
Mm-hmm.
Did you guys use any things to stay hard during shoots? You know, they do nowadays.
We didn't at first because there wasn't Viagra back. I don't think there was even Viagra back then. And very few guys were smoking weed. I smoked once or twice on a set, and that was about it. I just remember so many times I was in a film where the guy who I was doing it with was not turned on to me, or I was not turned on to him, so he was not turned on to me. And we would have to stop filming, and he'd have to go into a corner and play with himself to get a hard on. And it would take forever, and you'd lose the emphasis. You lose the enthusiasm that you have built up in the scene. So that's what I'm saying. It was just work.
Back during that time, was there a stigma towards doing adult film?
For me, it was no stigma. And all my friends, as long as I was making money and happy and, and not getting hurt, and they were happy for me.
How much were you making during that time, like for one shoot?
Probably $250 to $300, $400 a shoot.
What would that equate to nowadays, like in terms of money? Like $1,000?
Probably. I never made a lot of money doing porn. What I did was, by making porn, I showed people that Mickey Squires was still around and looked good. They would hire me to escort.
I think that's still a common thing, is a lot of people do porn to get escort clients.
It's good PR. And it puts you out there. That way, when you advertise, well, we used to advertise in newspapers back then, not on the computer. Well, you can still do it on the computer, I guess. But we would have if I put my name, Mickey Squires, Colt model, available for whatever, people would say, oh, that's Mickey Squires. I can look at him in a magazine and see that's what he looks like right now. So that was why I did it a lot.
How much would you make escort?
Yeah, sometimes a lot, sometimes not so much. It just depends on how much work I wanted to do. I mean, I never got rich, but I was able to live. I moved to New York and made quite a lot of money my first couple of years in New York City. I mean, today it would be like lots of money. But, of course, I ended up spending it on frivolous things like addictions.
Did you struggle with a lot of addiction?
I ended up doing coke a lot. Of course, it was the 80s, and everybody was doing coke. I mean, seriously, everybody was doing coke. I took advantage of that. I had one of my clients was a coke dealer. So
that's kind of convenient.
Set me up really, too much. It was too easy.
Of course, I'd be remiss to not bring up the AIDS epidemic with you, and especially because so many stars that really paved the way for, gay awareness and stuff are no longer here because of that. Do you remember when you first heard about it, and will you take me back to that moment?
The first guy that I heard about it was the man who used to cut our hair in San Francisco, the Castro Clone hair cutter. And he was the night he was throwing a huge dance party where he's thrown 3 or 4 of these before. This one was going to be his last big party, or his next big party, and he couldn't even attend his party because he was sick. So that was the first I heard of it. I never worried about it for some reason. I didn't, I knew that I didn't have that much sex where I, exchanged fluids. I played around a lot, but I never did so seriously that kind of sex. So it never seemed to really bother me. Of course, I was upset that it was happening, but I wasn't worried about it for myself. For some reason, I just never was. I wasn't being foolish or blind. I knew myself, and I just knew that I was doing as much as I could to enjoy my sex life, and and I didn't worry about the consequences. It's funny, when I had my relationship with my partner, Dan, we met in 82. He always joked to me that he had AIDS and we're probably all going to die of AIDS, so let's not worry about it. And we didn't. We used to have all kinds of great sex, and we didn't worry about it. He ended up dying in 1990, and I didn't get diagnosed until 96. Now, what's interesting is I had clients who were HIV positive, and they were on their beds almost dying, and they would hire me to come in and stand in their apartment or their whatever and just show off, not touch them, or they don't want to touch me. They knew that you couldn't do that because they didn't want to spread it, but they still had a sexual appetite, even as sick as they were. And I remember this one gentleman was really nice. He was in his bed. You could tell he was sick. He said, just stand over here and just get undressed and take yourself off and have fun with yourself. And I just want to watch. And I said, great, okay, I can do that. Because he was sick and he knew that. And he didn't want to, he didn't want to endanger me. It was horrible. New York was really horrible because we were the epicenter of all the AIDS fight and so forth. I just kept to myself about that. And I don't know, I just didn't let it concern me to the point that it would concern me physically. Because I just knew myself, and I just said, okay, whatever happens, happens. I'm in this, so I just take whatever comes.
I think of my circle of friends, and they're all gay guys, and we could have been just placed 30 years old earlier and been you.
Half of them would have been gone. I remember all the people that I hung out in San Francisco with, all the gay men that were the Castro clones. A good third to half of them were gone. Eventually, my best friend in 88 passed. My partner Dan passed from AIDS in 1990. And that's really the extent of how it hit me personally.
But to have your partner and your best friend pass within 2 years of each other, what was that like?
It was horrible. I have a strange take on death. I mean, it doesn't bother me because, I mean, I don't know. And people go when they go.
Do you think that's because of what you lived through during the AIDS epidemic?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, we're all going to die eventually anyway. I mean, not to get morbid, but so that doesn't bother me so much. I had a heart attack in February. I had what they call the widowmaker, which 70% of people who have widowmaker heart attacks don't survive. It was weird because I had a really hard, heavy gas pain in my chest, but I wasn't like having a heart attack, like, open heart surgery needed. It was just, I just couldn't get the heartburn to go away. So that's when I called 911, and they came over, and bless their hearts, in Palm Springs, there's like 7 or 8 of them in my apartment, all doing something to see what's going on with me. And they called the hospital and said, we're bringing him in on an ambulance, and get ready because he's having heart problems. And within an hour, they corrected it. I mean, I was in the hospital for 3.5 days, but it only took about an hour for them to correct it.
So glad that you're okay. Oh my God.
Me too. When my mom, who lived to almost 101 years, when she finally was in her last year, I was like, she really needs to go and let go because she's, there's no life in her anymore. So I understand that about death. It comes when there's no more life.
I feel that too for someone who's 101, but I think about all those, 20-year-olds in San Francisco or whatever,
Yeah, horrible. I mean, half the men I used to know in San Francisco died young. My whole generation, half of my generation died. You imagine what we would have been if they'd all lived? I mean, this world would be a lot better place for everything. This country would be a lot better with all the men of my age who didn't live, because they were energetic, they were going, they were living life to the fullest. And that would have continued into older age, as it sort of has with me.
So with the adult film world during that crisis, were you still involved? I know you said you're escort, but were you still doing adult film at that time?
Oh, yeah. No. I was working steadily.
And how, because before it, you guys were doing a lot of barebacking, right? And then AIDS came and condoms were enforced?
And, well, not so much condoms, but you couldn't come inside. You never could come inside somebody or have somebody inside you. It had to pull out and jerk off on their body. And you see a lot of that in that period before they insisted that films have condoms, because that wasn't the rule for a while. You could still do, porn, but they made it that they don't want to endanger their participants. So they said, just pull out when you're ready to come. We want to film you coming, not inside somebody.
It's such a daring profession at that time to continue doing, thinking, I know you said you kind of just didn't think about it like that.
Right. But I mean, it was like I knew that I was not getting into a lot of fight scenes. It was mostly visual, mostly jerking off, mostly fantasy stuff, mostly verbal, mostly that kind of stuff. So I didn't feel endangered. The times that I did get on film, they made it very clear to that person not to come inside me, and they whenever you're ready, whenever you think you're ready, pull out, and we'll work on just jerking off. And that's what would happen a lot before the condoms took over.
What about tests? When did tests become available?
You mean HIV test?
Yes.
God, early 90s maybe? I mean, I didn't get diagnosed, I said, till 96. So by then they were testing every young man or man who was single having any kind of a cold, they would test you. I think early 90s.
At 96, was it still AZT, or what was the medicine that was prescribed?
Yes.
AZT was the first drug approved to treat HIV, but it quickly became one of the most controversial. Originally developed as a failed cancer drug in the 1960s, it was repurposed in the 1980s during the AIDS crisis and rushed through trials under intense political pressure. The initial doses were extremely high, far more than the body could safely tolerate, and patients experienced brutal side effects. Many activists and patients believed the drug was doing more harm than good, and some accused the pharmaceutical industry of pushing a toxic, expensive treatment to profit off of desperation. Its early use felt like poison to so many in the community.
When I got diagnosed, I went into the hospital in Redondo Beach. I was very sick with the flu, and they tested me there, which they test everybody. At that point, they were testing everybody. And they said, you're HIV positive. I said, okay. So they released me finally from the hospital, and I went back to live with my mom to take care of me. And we had a Kaiser right in Bellflower, which is where I grew up. And then I went to the Kaiser in Bellflower, and the doctor there turned out to be later I found out turned out to be homophobic, but he was an HIV doctor, or he was in charge of infectious diseases. And he gave me, after interviewing me and checking me out, he gave me AZT and said, come back in 6 months, expecting me to die. Because I had, when I got diagnosed, I only had 16 T cells to my name. The percentage was only 16, which is super low. But I only had two. I had thrush and Kaposi sarcoma, a very mild case of both. But those are the two. So they diagnosed me as AIDS because those are precursors of AIDS. And he said, here's the AGT, come back in 6 months. Well, I was living with my mom, and I finally moved back to my own apartment, and I got sicker. I got sick again. Not to the point that I knew I wasn't feeling well, not really, really, really violently sick. And I decided to I was living in another part of Los Angeles, and I went to another Kaiser, and that doctor put me on the cocktail, which had just come out that summer. So I got just in time on the cocktail, and that was 1996, and I'm still here.
Because AZT was poison in itself, right?
It was horrible. I mean, I know he gave me that 6 month supply and said, come back when come back in 6 months, knowing that I probably wouldn't. He didn't care. He didn't care. He had no empathy for what I was going through. All the other doctors I've had at Kaiser have cared. But the cocktail, I was very lucky. I've been very lucky in my life many times. I mean, knock on wood. That's not wood, but you know what I mean. That the cocktail came out just when I needed it. And all those people who died before didn't have that.
How did you think of the name Mickey Squires?
I love it. Colt gave me that name. Jim French gave me that name. He decided, I have no idea why he decided that name, but I honor him for that because I love that name.
It's so interesting to think about in life. You make these decisions, like you become Mickey Squires, and you probably didn't realize at the time that would be a legacy for you, and you'd be here now talking still about that,
Well, once as I said, with the 90s, I sort of, it dwindled down to nothing. And there was no computer back then. There was no internet. So when the internet came out, and I got my first computer like 2001, I got on the internet as Mickey Squires, and all of a sudden it boomed again. I would go to International Mr. Leather contest and just parade around as Mickey Squires, and people would come up to me and says, "Oh, I used to jerk off to you. I know who you are." And I loved all that. So I had a resurgence.
So let's talk about what life is like for you today. You're working on a documentary, right?
Yes. They want to do this documentary about Richard versus Mickey Squires, or how Richard became a Mickey Squires. How does a Richard become a Mickey Squires? And what kind of image I presented back in the 80s.
Congratulations. To everyone who's interested, I'll link the website to the documentary in this episode so you can go check that out and support it if you want to do that. But that's so amazing.
Yeah, it really is. I'm just once again, me? I'm just flattered.
You had brought up, I think off camera, but that, people in my generation are now starting to take interest in your generation. And it makes me think of the times we're living in right now and how much progression your generation fought for us to be where we are right now. And how do you see the world now for gay people?
Once again, we're going back in the closet, it seems. I mean, we're being forced by our government, which I really despise. The fact that they took Harvey Milk's name off his battleship, unforgivable. I mean, and to take Harriet Tubman's names off hers? I mean, what is going on with this country, this government? I didn't vote for this government, so it's not my government. Yeah. It's just sad that this is happening now, but it's always happened. We've never really been fully accepted. We think we have, and we have our freedoms, and we got the right to get married, and that was wonderful. It's just that we've always had discrimination. We always will.
Thank you for coming today and for talking with me. Honestly, I feel so honored to be able to sit down with you. And no, I truly do. I love learning from you and learning your stories. And it's just, we're so lucky to still have you on this earth,
I feel lucky to be still on this earth. Trust me, after all the things I've gone through. But thank you. I appreciate that.
Thank you so much. You did oh my God, you're so good. You're a professional. Good job. Sitting down with Mickey Squires was truly so educational for me. I knew I was going to learn a lot because the 70s and 80s, those times are so important for our community. And I knew that him living through them had so many stories to share, but I learned even more than I thought that I could. And when I was editing this video, I wanted to try to capture that essence of it being educational and stuff. So I hope that you all enjoyed all the different segments and the different conversations that we got into. I feel so honored to have found him, first of all, and shout out to Matt at Boy Culture Blog. He's actually the one who connected me to Mickey, and I love his blog. So if you have not checked that out, go check that out. But unfortunately, so many of our community, their lives were lost during this epidemic, and it just was such an honor to sit down with him and to talk to him about what that all looked like for him. I'm actually in Hawaii right now. That's why it looks, I guess in the frame, it looks tropical. This is my Airbnb back here. Actually, Sloan's working inside there right now, so I thought I'd come out here and film here right now. But it's been really nice right now. We're in the North Shore of Oahu, which is a really quiet area. And this is our Airbnb. It's so cute. It's like two little small homes in one. It's adorable. And then tomorrow, which is actually today, because you're watching it today, but tomorrow we're going to Maui, which is really I love Maui so much. I'm so excited. And then we go back to Honolulu, Waikiki, like the city area at the end of next week. And I already have a couple ideas for episodes, but I still have another week. So if you live in Waikiki and you think you'd be interested in potentially sharing your story for an episode, make sure to email me or DM me on Instagram. Either one works. It's been really nice to relax and swim with the ocean and just enjoy the tropical life. LA can feel like a very fast-paced lifestyle, and it's just this hustle mentality of just go, 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 go. And it's always nice to just go somewhere where the timing is slower and you can really just hang out and watch the sunset every night. Like, that's been so nice. So I've been having a great time. I'm already sunburned. 3 days in and I'm already so sunburned, but I got to be better about putting on sunscreen like religiously throughout the day. I hope you guys are all doing really, really well. I'm thinking of you, and I will see you soon with another video. Okay, bye.